Well, hello and welcome to this super special episode of the Terri Cole Show. I am so excited that you have decided to join me today. And today is a special episode because I'm actually doing an annual sort of girlfriend jam with Danielle LaPorte, and many of you know her and know her work. She has written many books. She is highly conscious leader, I guess I would call her. She's a poet, she's a rebel. She has a beautiful planner that comes out every year. I just got mine and I absolutely love it. Um, so, Danielle and I have been friends for many years, and every year we do something that's called Real Talk about real love. So that is what we're doing today, where we take questions from our respective audiences about love. We're both pretty obsessed with real, healthy, vibrant, juicy love. And part of what we are breaking down in this episode is the 10 top love blocks for women that I did a survey of my crew. And so we're breaking down a bunch of those. And actually, that is what those love blocks are what I've used to create my More Love meditation experience, which starts this coming Monday, which is January 13th. So if you're interested in that, all the information that you need is in the show notes. Easy breezy. It's 10 days of these therapeutically designed guided meditations. We do it as a whole entire group. And each day we're basically smashing one of those top 10 love blocks that all of you were generous enough to share with me. So we also talk in this, in the episode itself, we talk quite a bit and share quite a bit about our own journeys to love and self-love and blocks to love and self-love that, we're both still working on all these things. I mean, because who isn't a work in progress? I have to hope that we all know we will be that and are that forever, especially when it comes to matters of the heart. This can be the thing that is very difficult to overcome because of where we were raised, the family we grew up in, what models of behavior we saw. All of those things impact basically what became the 10 top love blocks for women. So I hope that you enjoy this very deep, very spicy, kind of smoky hot at different points. It's not really an interview, it's really a girlfriend jam. And I believe that that is how you will experience it. I hope that you love it. We love doing it. All the information that you need for what Danielle is up to and for the More Love meditation experience that starts on January 13th will be in the show notes. Mwah! I hope you enjoyed this as much as we enjoyed doing it. I'm so excited to welcome one of my BFFs to the Terri Cole Show, Danielle LaPorte. Welcome.
Hi, Terri Cole. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever we are.
Yeah. We are doing, just so those of you who are listening or watching us on YouTube know what we're doing, this is our annual Real Talk, as I would say, about real love, where Danielle and I both have a vested interest in healthy, juicy, vibrant, lasting, heart-centered love, we could say. And so do our communities. And so we're going to be taking some questions that you guys have already sent in, and we're going to be talking about the top blocks to this type of juicy love that we're all basically looking for or wanting to up level. And really, this is for you if you're single or if you're in a relationship, because obviously it all starts with you. So a lot of what I focus on, and I know you too, you as well, Dee, is self-love, self-regard has everything to do with what else happens out there in your love life. So where shall we begin?
Let's talk about, well, I'll tell you what I'm really interested in right now with respect to love. I consider myself a student of A Course in Miracles. And it teaches that forgiveness really is the highest aspiration. And this is a really hard one to wrap your head around. Only love is real. So let me give you the breakdown of my interpretation of that and how I see it as just getting like really practical. Because like, how can you be in that space of like, only love is real when you don't have the love that you want, when you're in an argument in the kitchen talking about the same damn thing again with your partner. Like, you know, my interpretation of that, like really high teaching, is my truest core self, my most divine self, my most essential original self is pure love. And anything that is not aligned with that in how I treat myself and how I treat others, in the places from which I'm making choices, is not my real self. It's not my best self. It's not my highest self. It's not what I truly want. So my question is always, you know, I'm just coming back to, is this real love? Is this true love? And I mean, we should really talk about what love is eventually in this conversation, but yeah, only love is real has really helped me as a marker. And it really helps me in terms of the aspiration of forgiveness. Like if someone's being manipulative and uncool and not hearing me because they're actively ignoring me, that's not their best self. That's not their real self. So I make a choice to like go in and speak to their higher self. This is way easier said than done, but that's my guidepost these days. Yeah.
All right. So my 2 cents on that. And I love that. And yet it's funny because language wise and because of what I do for a living, I'm not the poet that you really are. I'm more Jersey practical, like you said, like what does it actually mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I look at what you're saying is that if we engage in things that are not from behaviors, interactions, relationship dances, that are not from our highest self, like you're saying, from sort of pure love, then what we're really doing is we're colluding with sort of the lowest form of the other person, which is not very loving. And we're also reinforcing our own lower vibration, the one that will not bring us what it is that we want. And the one that we're not, like you said, coming from this place of pure love is aspirational. We want to do that. But when we're not actively and consciously seeking that, because it's one thing to say it, to read it in A Course in Miracles, to be like, that is such a groovy notion.
Mm-hmm.
What we're talking about is how do you actually live it? And so when you say, go in and talk to their highest self, how I interpret that, or what I would say from a therapeutic point of view, is that instead of reacting to the lower vibration that's coming at you, is the difficult part, as you stated, of coming from a higher place, letting things go. If I look at it in my own marriage, in my own life, in my own this long-term relationship that's, I mean, a great relationship, a healthy relationship, one that we've worked on and continue to work on, and you know this from the front row. But there are moments when you spend a lot of time with someone, they just kick up your petty. They kick up your codependency. They kick up your crazy, right? Where I want to say, did you look for the effing half and half that you're telling me is not in there? Because I promise you it's the third thing to the left in the back on the second shelf because I just put it there. And Vic will say, I looked. Why do you always think I don't look? I'm like, I go in now.
Is it there?
Oh, it is. Hello. Obviously, it's like living with when I was living with kids. They were all like, nothing is ever anywhere. I'm like, because you never look, actually.
No, yeah.
But the attitude, right? So that's like a sort of a silly example, but this is what life is made up of, which is like the day to day. How do we get through life? We need to go through these things that when I was younger in this relationship, and it's, trust me, I am also a student of all the things. It isn't like, well, I've reached some high peak. I haven't, but I certainly have worked hard in the past 30 years in therapy to take responsibility for my own dysfunctional crap so that I'm not perpetuating it, right? Because the results that I get from that stuff, they're not the highest results that I want. So back in the day, I might be more sarcastic, right? Indirect communication of my frustration, and say something like, okay, I guess you looked, but your eyes were closed, or something like that. rather than now I don't get frustrated. I go, you know, Terri, this is a part of the dance that you do with Vic. He might just be bidding for your attention, for your, and I don't mean like trying to get attention. I literally mean the way that the Love Lab, John, what's his name?
Gottman.
Yeah, John Gottman talks about in relationships that we bid for the other's attention, which doesn't really mean, it may not even mean that he didn't see the half and half, you know? He just might in that moment need for me to find it for him as a way to, as like a little like pat on, yeah, like it feels good, maybe. I'm not saying that. If he listens to this, he's gonna be like, what are you, nuts? I'm not doing that. But you know, he won't listen to this, so I don't think we have to worry about it. But do you know what I mean? Where there's something about, for me, it's so much more pleasant, and it feeds the love I want to be loving about it, to see it from a different perspective, and also to realize after the John Gottlieb stuff. And if you, those of you listening or watching, if you are not familiar with the Love Lab, it's a more than 4-decade long, basically scientific experiment about love, and he's been able to predict within a 94% accuracy, they say, with couples being hooked up to, you know, heart monitor things and stuff that, you know, says how you're breathing and all of that. Couples, when they're sitting next to each other, he can watch them interact for 15 minutes, ask them questions, and within a 94% accuracy rate, he can determine who will get divorced eventually. And this is all about bidding for how your body responds, like if you're sitting next to your person, and how many of you listening or watching have had this experience? You feel like you're with the enemy. I've been in not great relationships where just being with that person, because we fought a lot, or I felt misunderstood all the time, or they were trying to say I was doing something in one of my relationships. They were trying to say I was stepping out, or I was doing something that I wasn't doing. P.S. first and last super codependent, crazy relationship I had, it would be very threatening. And so my heart would be beating, and I'd be worried about what he was going to say and what he was thinking. So I do understand when they say that sitting next to someone is kicking up your fight or flight. Anyway, back to what you were saying. We basically took the, you know, you were able to bring it down to earth of coming from this point of view of, is it in the highest? Is it in my highest? Am I acting out of this place, this aspirational place of being loving? So that's how we break it down, listeners, to only love is real. Because when, for me, I hear things that are, I don't know if it's a platitude or whatever you want to call it, like that, I want to go, okay, really? It doesn't feel true, but I believe that it is the way that you broke it down. So yes.
Yeah. And for me, I have to break down those really esoteric high truths, those platitudes. Obviously, I want them to be practical, but I'm always going to go look for the esoteric first. I'm going to go look for the truth that's been talked about by mystics for thousands of years and see how that works in my kitchen. How does that work on Tinder? Yeah.
Well, you can see what books they've read. that might help.
Yeah. No, how it works on Tinder is I'm going to be elegant. I mean, love for me, there's a lot of simplicity to it. I mean, love is so often about taking the high road, right? The best to the best. And what I've noticed in myself is I used to resent having to be that person. And, you know, I remember I did a speaking gig. Where was I? I was in Fargo, and it was all women. It was a wellness conference. And I asked everybody to raise their hands if they currently resented having to be strong. And almost everybody rose their hands. Yeah. Raise their hands. And I'm done with that. I decided to not be that for myself anymore. That when I am strong, when I make the elegant choice, when I take a breath, when I soften, when I'm more gentle, when I lean in, when I don't bark back, when I don't roll my eyes, when I give them the benefit of the doubt, when I look for their higher self, I'm stronger. I'm stronger. I'm more loving. That's what we're talking about. I'm more fun to be around, but I feel better in myself, and I'm less hooked on them meeting my needs and seeing me and affirming how great I am. I know I'm great because I was just great in that moment. I know I'm lovable because I was just a loving person. Yeah. So I just really scrubbed that crankiness out of my system. Like, I got to be strong again. I got to be the honest person again. I got to be the one who's on time again. Yeah. You know why? Because that's who I am.
Correct.
Because I want to be a quality human. And whether they're quality or not, I showed up quality. We're good. I'm more loving. Peace. I'm so much more, the word isn't tolerant. I mean, I think base level, there's tolerance. And above tolerance, there's acceptance. And above acceptance, there's celebration. Whether someone's showing up or not, you celebrate the human that they are. Doesn't mean you hang out long term, but
Right,
yeah.
but there's something about now, if we're sort of flipping this idea of strength, and I think that it's super accurate what you're saying in my own experience of it takes a lot of strength to not need to be right all the time.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of strength to not need to win. It takes a lot of strength to accept, to just say, this is being in a relationship with someone, any relationship, being in a relationship with ourselves requires a certain amount of acceptance that we have great skills, and then we have places where we're lacking. We have places where we haven't mastered that thing yet. And I think that my younger self a lot of times would come from the point of view of I've made the assumption that all people were similar to me, which is not true. So I would do something or overgive or be my generous self or whatever self I was being in that moment. But of course, the things I would always remember is like, well, I'd be like making a mental note in my mind. I'd be going through who should have offered to help me because of my past generosity. Do you know what I mean? Like keeping score, keeping tabs. And that really is being, for me, small-minded. So the allowing and the acceptance, it also creates this expansion of like, it all doesn't have to be figured out this second. Maybe we don't have an understanding this moment. But when we look at this, Danielle, when we look at this from a therapeutic point of view, because I love the ideas that we're talking about, and you're living them and I'm living them. I mean, striving to live them in my life. And yet there's something that's very real. The base of this, if we're talking about people wanting 2020 or any year to be their year of epic real love, let's say, or they're seeking the love that is exquisite, that really is something, that really is a friendship that creates liberation. Because to me, right, freedom is my highest core desired feeling since you and I met. It has never changed. The other ones change a bit, but that one doesn't change because it is completely non-negotiable in all of my decision making. It might not make me more free today, right? If I'm writing a book, which I am right now, right? I'm less free today, but I'm writing the book from my free will to help more people. And I'm more committed to that than I am having more free time between now and April 15th when it's due. Do you know what I mean? So you get your mind in there, but the freedom piece and what I was saying is about this baseline functioning, that if you are seeking to have this higher love in your life, a better relationship with yourself, to attract this high level experience, you have to be really aware of what you might be playing out that's getting in the way. And that's me being a therapist, and that's how I look at everything, that if there is some unconscious stuff that you're repeating that continues to, let's say, one of the questions that came in, because I know that you had some come in from your community and I had some, because we always end up answering at least a few of them, was about, why do I always find myself in a relationship with unavailable people?
Oh, I can tell you.
Oh, please do.
And we should talk about higher love and dating. So, you know, how long have you and Vic been married?
We've been married 20 years and we've been together
Mm,
22 years.
22 years. So you're together 22 years. I was in a 14-year relationship. I'm single now. I'm like I was just on Tinder last night. So that's like content, you know, extreme. Um, why do you keep attracting unavailable? So that's been a habit of mine. And first of all, you have to see all of the ways that they're unavailable that you tell yourself they're not. So, you know, I can attract, well, we'll put this in past tense, really dynamic, well presenting, like they are so emotionally in, like I'm in, I want a relationship, I want hot this and hot that. And I'm just like, yes, but underneath, not really showing up, not honoring their word. We don't want the same things. There's been a few occasions like big fat lies that weren't told until like critical moments, like we're here, right? You're telling me this now, you know.
Mhm.
And I wanted to be like, I mean, of course, I'm self-referencing. So immediately I was like, why am I here? What is this a repeated pattern of? Oh, this feels so familiar. This is gross. I thought I broke this pattern. Um, but what I needed, so I got through all that, but I needed to see how I was still attracting unavailability. Like, and the next one was like, oh, this guy's like a total match. And there's chemistry there. And this, you know, he's got checks all the boxes, would make a great life partner. And then a friend said, yeah, but he's got a girlfriend. I was like, right, right. He's not even actually available. And I'm not, and just to be like super clear, I'm not interested in breaking up any relationships, but I just like, it's so not going to work between the two of them. And I was like, well, why am I going to pine and wait around in the meantime? So yeah, just like there's a whole menu of ways that people can be unavailable. And I think you need to flesh out that menu and check, check, check and see where they're showing up and
I
where
think
they're not
that's
yet.
great advice. And because, you know, I call that like the lies we tell ourselves, right? It's like
Yep.
this deception where when I was first in therapy, because I really never thought, you know, this, I just figured I'm going to have a lot of careers and other great things in my life. I've got amazing friendships with the same women I've been friends with since I was 5. Like my family stuff is good, like good. Addiction's over. Like, okay, I got it all figured out, but I could never really figure out the love stuff. I was living in New York. I was a talent agent. It's like, I was like, it's okay. Like, if that thing doesn't happen, because I'd already been through the being with mismatched people and the pain of that and the how boring as hell that became and how so unsatisfying it was. I definitely got to the point in my life in my 20s where I was like, by my mid to late 20s, I was like, I would definitely rather be alone in this beautiful, like rich life that I've created. It's kind of like an amazing party. And there's nobody who's bringing anything to this party that I don't already have
Mm-hmm.
myself. And in fact, people are bringing shit I don't want to this party, people that I was dating. So what the back to the unavailability factor though, I got to that after I thought I'd figured it out in therapy. I'd been in therapy since I was like 19. I was like, oh, I so got it. I'm attracting unavailable men because my father was emotionally unavailable, although he was dutiful. So he didn't like quote unquote abandon the family. Let's say he paid for college and did those dutiful things, but he was emotionally not there at all. So I was like, oh, I get it. Now I'm attracting these very hot, very available European men. I was traveling all the time and I was like, this is so awesome because he's affectionate and tells me how beautiful I am and he loves me and it's awesome. Oh,
And
P.S. And
lives on
then
the other side of the world. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And my
I know
therapist
that
was
one too.
like, but geographical unavailability is still unavailable because you know what?
Yeah.
Where does that leave you, Terri? You're still alone,
Yeah.
longing, in that same state of longing, but almost even worse because I did have a beautiful connection with these men who were very different than my father. So anyway,
Mm.
I agree with you that we can trick ourselves. I just read something online that was so poignant about this. Like, if someone feels like home, that might not necessarily be a good thing. Like if you came from like a chaotic, messed up system.
Yeah, I actually remember saying that in one key relationship to me. You feel like home. Yeah, lock. Yeah, no, leave. Throw away the keys. I also had to look at my unavailability, and that's still what I look at. Like in terms of attachment theory, um, what is it? You're secure, you're anxious, you're avoidant, or your combo of all those. I think there might be a fourth one. I'm one of those anomalies on the scale where I'm like secure and avoidant, or anxious and avoidant. Anyway, I'm a bit fucked up. But I have a tendency for avoidancy. And I see it in small ways, like someone I really love, like a male friend can, just one second. Sorry, somebody's at my door.
You're like, P.S.
Yes, this is when you work at home. Okay. Someone I really love and adore, not romantically, but like someone who adored me basically would reach out to me, and I'd just like take a day to get back to them. What? Why I'm urgently responding to like my guy at the car dealership, like who can wait for me, And I'm like, what is that about? And I just like see that pattern. And I can also see it in like dating, where I have had in the past exceedingly high standards. It's actually a way of being avoidant. Being closed is a way of being unavailable.
Oh yeah.
And I've really gotten over that. And I see this, I hear this a lot from female friends and, women at gigs. They're just like, but I've worked so hard to like clean my energy and get my life together. And I just don't want to date anybody. Of course, you're not going to date anybody, but every encounter is bringing you closer to fulfillment and to yourself. And I want to say something about the energy that we're bringing to the online dating scene that's important, which is that kind of tisking, judgy energy, that swiping culture. And I do a lot of swiping left, a lot of no's. It's needle in a haystack. But first of all, I believe the needle is there. Like I don't think the world is deprived of good men at all. But when I swipe, my personal practice is not to be like, oh, no. I say, thank you. Because every dude I'm swiping on is making way for the right dude to come in, or multiple right dudes.
Yep.
And I also like the golden rule, do unto others. Everything's energy. Do I want some guy swiping left on me saying, no, to this, to that, no way. No, treat me with respect. I showed up. So
yep.
You got to be loving in every step of the process.
I love it. Back to the question about why the unavailable people that we were sort of talking about. Another thing that I think is really helpful to look at is something that we call secondary gain in therapy.
Oh yes. I love right? This part of your teaching.
Yeah. So it's like the question that you asked for the woman who sent in that question, Kirsten, is what do I get to not feel, not face, and not experience by continuing to have a repetition of being with unavailable people? So again, the question, and don't worry, this will all be in the show notes for you guys listening. Mm-hmm. The secondary gain, which is the unobvious gain, because you may say, what do you mean? I'm not gaining anything. I want my person, and I believe that you consciously do. Secondary gain is more of a subconscious or an unconscious protection mechanism, like you were just saying, Dee, about like, I'm going to wait a day, mm-hmm. Even though when you logically go think about it, you're like, why am I doing that? Then it makes no sense at all, because it's not aligned with how you really feel about that person. Mm-hmm. You feel enthusiastic about them, as you would say, right? Yeah. And so by waiting a day or two, it may look like you're not, which isn't true. So when we can get to the secondary gain, so let's say with dating, I was looking at my own secondary gain, right? So what do I get to when I was dating and dating people in other countries. After I'd stopped dating the super emotionally unavailable people in this country, I went to dating people in other countries. What did I get to not feel, not face, and not experience? Well, the first thing that came to mind when I understood this with working with a brilliant therapist called Ruth Ferrero, who I worked with for years in New York, is that I got to not be controlled. Right? I'd had past experiences with a boyfriend who was controlling, and where it was like the highest codependent relationship that I'd had, which was so painful and exhausting, and being hypervigilant. Dude, I was so tired all the time, because you're like, why am I so tired? I think I have an autoimmune disorder. Oh no, it just takes a shit ton of bandwidth.
Yeah.
Constantly making sure that I'm not doing something that's making this person mad or setting them off or whatever. Like, so exhausting. So that was in the back of my mind. And the way that I prepared myself to be open for someone who was actually available, Victor, my husband, was by understanding that was still in there, that I still had this stickiness around relationships, meaning loss, right? Going back to my mother's relationship with my father, right? My mother was in college. She worked for 2 years in a factory so she could go to college, because both my folks were grew up poor. And then my father went a year before her. She gets in after being like the queen of the GE ball, because that's where she worked at General Electric. Oh my God, you get what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And by I guess Thanksgiving break, she got pregnant with my oldest sister and had to drop out of college and never went back. So the covert and overt messaging I got was like, P.S. marriage is the end of all of your dreams. Mm-hmm. Just so you know, a permanent relationship means you will never become who you thought you might be. So even though I didn't consciously think that, once we got into it in therapy, that was part of the secondary gain, was that I didn't have to, light my dreams on fire and give them up. It was like, in my unconscious mind, it was an either or. Either I can have this amazing thing, or I can keep this amazing career trajectory that I'm on. Mm-hmm. So if you're listening and you ask yourself those questions, and you can use them for any area of your life that you get stuck. It's such a handy dandy tool to just have in your back pocket. Just write it on like a note in your phone, where you're like, I can't believe I'm here again. Whether it has to do with addiction or money or abundance, or, being in a triangle with girlfriends, something I always found myself in years ago. Understand what are you getting out of it? Because you're getting something, because that's the way your conscious and unconscious mind works, or you wouldn't keep being there. Even if it's painful, there is something in it for you. And those secondary gain questions, what do I get to not face, not feel, and not experience by staying stuck where I am right now, will reveal something. And for me, when that was revealed, then we can move into the conscious mind and go, oh, that was how it was for my mother. That was a different time, and I'm a different person. And it's not disloyal of me to not repeat that, to do better than she did. Because I do believe that we do have an unconscious fear, a lot of us, to sort of outdo our parents in any way, for fear that maybe we'll get kicked out, of the little...
The family unit, yeah. Kicked out of the cave, yeah. I made some notes because some hot words you said. Well, one is conscious mind. I mean, Real Love Revolution is all about living from a conscious mind. This is all about really an awakened life, so that your unconscious isn't running the show.
Yes.
Right? Like, you're behaving as a whole grown up, awake person. And I thought an important part of your story there was about how you thought you had an autoimmune disorder, but it's really just a shitty relationship that you're in. So many women I've seen on the path to like waking up to themselves and using a relationship. I mean, we use relationships to wake up. That's how we're here to engage, to heal. I think we heal ourselves, we heal each other, and then we can use all that goodness that we're in, that health that we're in, and be of service to the world. But one of the, I don't know if there's a sequence to it, but one of the steps I see with women is they realize that they've been somatizing, is that the correct pronouncing?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what's been happening in the relationship. Like,
Which means
oh, I've
putting it
had,
in their body, when it means you're expressing it physically, if anyone doesn't know what it means.
yeah. So on the somatic level, he's fooling around. I've had a really different, like, oh God, I think I've got this ulcer. No, as soon as she realized he was shagging the neighbor, stomach pain gone.
Mm.
And the exhaustion and I was in a relationship for a while where I had a terrible situation. It's called interstitial cystitis, where your bladder gets really inflamed and you pee nonstop. Like, it's just like, you just always have to pee because your bladder is always saying something has to get out of my body. And I went to a specialist to get this sorted. I was like, what's going on? And the questionnaire I answered was, on a scale of 1 to 10, if the situation doesn't get corrected, how likely are you to commit suicide? And I thought, wow, this really destroys some people's lives. And I just got it. I was sitting in the office and I just like, I got to leave my relationship, because on a scale of 1 to 10, if the situation never changes in this relationship, how likely am I to kill myself? Never, but I'm gonna want to die. I'm out. Yeah. And back to the avoidance thing. For me, there's something about, your story is about you don't want to get kicked out of the nest. Mine was, I'm going to avoid things so that I can take the time to perfect my response. Like, because I love you so much and I don't want to get kicked out of the nest and I want you to adore me, and I adore you, I'm just going to take a day to say exactly, precisely the right thing for you. And then I feel guilty because I didn't get back to you immediately because I love you so truly. And then so the guilt has me, I get in the cycle, and then it's another day. And then it's a week later and I'm replying to the people that I love the most. It's like so messed up.
But your clarity, it's so amazing when you start to see, I always say to therapy clients, like, nobody tells us that there's a parallel process going on all the time in life. And when it's almost like you open this door, and what I mean by a parallel process is we have the thing that looks like it's happening.
Yes.
And then we have the parallel process that's going on of old injuries that are still charged, of childhood repetitions that we're playing out, but that we don't realize. So women would sit on my couch and be like, I don't get it. I'm running a Fortune 500 company, or I am a whatever I am.
Baller.
Right. And I can negotiate any system in the world. There's so much shame that comes along with very successful women who haven't figured out the love thing, because they're like, what the actual is happening?
Mm-hmm.
That I'm so smart and they're so dutiful. But again, the perfectionism that you just described is also something that I find, at least with my clients, has been very pervasive. The women who take my courses, that there's something about not just being raised as good girls, because most of us were, be nice. This was like some high virtue that should matter. Like everyone wanted a nice girl. But really what that is saying, be agreeable, be compliant.
Because if you're not agreeable and compliant, you will be alone.
Yes.
And for me, the next layer under that has been, I was raised very Catholic, meaning my parents were super young and super hip, and there was lots of coolness there. So they weren't hardcore Catholic. I was a hardcore Catholic little girl. And it's all based on a punitive. You have to be all of these things in order to be in the favor of God, basically. So yeah, I've had, one of my underpinning stories is be my own version of good. And it's a very high version of good. And then I get what I want. I've even had to question if it's in divine order for me to desire a life partner. Like, I've gone so hardcore and I just like, should I give up all my desire? Like, I think this is where you head eventually. You do give up your desires and you're just more present. You roll with the divine. And I've walked through that fire. Had to be willing for that to not be it this lifetime for me. But I'm on the other side of like, no, God wants my joy and my happiness. I know myself. I've done my work. I've peeled back the layers. I still want a lot of the same things I've wanted my whole life.
Yeah.
Let's tend that fire.
It's all right. All right. So one thing that I wanted to get to kind of quick, because I know we're going to be running out of time soon, because we could do this for another 17 hours. And once we stop recording, we probably will.
Just bring in the popcorn. Yeah.
Just bring, I have it. My kettle corn is waiting to be chomped on. It's just too loud to do now. What I have done is I've gathered all the women in my crew. So doing surveys of like, what are your biggest love challenges? Because of course, to be of actual service, it's not just what I think is interesting or what I want to do, right? It's what do my people need and want to lessen their suffering. And because I have such an interest in love and boundaries and effective communication around love, because I find that this is the place that even when we figure everything else out, it's like the last holdout for so many high functioning women is this love area. Either they're settling, they're in a relationship and they're like, okay, I got the 2.2 kids. Everyone's on track, got money in the bank. Husband's nice, but this is all there is. Because I super thought I was going to feel different or I was going to feel more. Part of that is that life is based on who they thought they needed to be, not really how they feel, based on avoiding conflict instead of asserting their truest self, because no one teaches us how to do that. I mean, I'm teaching people now and so are you, but it's not, it takes a while to get it. So what we came up with the 10 biggest challenges, I turned that into what is actually starting on Monday, the More Love Meditation Experience. So each day, so I took these challenges and I put them into these therapeutically designed meditations that are about 10 minutes each. Because again, the people in my crew are busy, right? It can't be like, well, you need to be meditating for 4 hours every day for 10 days and you'll be fixed. It's got to be something that can be integrated into a busy life. So when we moved through, and it's so funny because so many of the things that we're talking about today, of course, those are the things that we're handling, one per day, where I'm asking you these sort of provocative, meaningful questions. You're instructed to reflect on what do you really think. The first day is basically opening the door to possibility, because so many of the women who would come to me would already have gotten to the point, like you basically just said, at a certain point you were questioning, do I have a right? Should I even want a life partner? Is that okay to have that desire? And I've seen every variation of that, from if it hasn't happened by now, it's not going to, I feel embarrassed that it hasn't happened, and I feel like people are judging me and that my friends are whatever. Like there's all different variations. So part of it is getting clear. On day one, we get clear about, you got to believe it's possible.
Oh, yes.
Right? You got to believe that.
Because it's healing. Just like you have to believe that your body can heal and you can recover from anything. You have to believe in love. Yeah.
Right. And then we move into letting go of the past, because how much of the time is the past where you're like, either it's women would come in and either they cheated in their marriage and then they just feel like they deserve to be punished forever. They cheated on someone, they got caught. It's all shame from here on in. And the way they're punishing themselves is by not, either by having too high standards or not getting out there or not getting back to people, like just blatant self-sabotage. But they're kind of like, but isn't it kind of what I deserve? No. So that's one thing, is we're going to let go of the past, because it is definitely not what you deserve. Anybody, for sure. Like we learn from those experiences. But what is your experience of releasing the past?
First, I have to forgive myself. So a lot of self-criticism around, I attracted that, I created it, I stayed in that, I wasn't my best self, why? And once I ease up on that, then I can forgive the other person, which is absolutely essential. And like, I did my best, you did my best. I'm better now. Peace out. Yeah. And for me, I'm very ritualistic. So there's always like some burning involved.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's kind of like seals the deal of like, it's released.
It's really important, whatever it is, even if it's like going to Zumba with your girlfriends, like, I'm going to dance it off this class. You've got to like really consciously signal to your psyche, I let go and I'm free. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's a whole bunch of other days. You guys know all the information is in the show notes for this. I think my favorite day
Mm.
in all of it is basically the self-celebration, because you were talking before about that's really the highest, is when you get to the point it's so past, you said tolerance, right? It's so past being tolerant. It's so past self-acceptance. I always felt really like offended by self-acceptance being like some super high awesome thing, where I was like, that's so fucking lame. Like, yeah, duh, self-acceptance, okay, so we'll get there. But how about changing the lens with which you are seeing yourself? Change the glasses, dude. Look at yourself as the unique and exquisite goddess that you are. Celebrate what is unique about you. Don't try to be a carbon copy of someone else, not only because you can't be, because you can't be. I mean, DNA wise, what do we know? You, Danielle LaPorte, are the only you who's ever been and who will ever be. Your DNA says that. That is a physical, scientific fact. But how would your life change? Anyone who's listening, if you stopped focusing on what's wrong with you, your body, your life, the way you talk, you don't like your hair, you don't like your skin, you don't like your ass, whatever, what would happen? And I can tell you, because I've seen it thousands of times in my experience and in my own experience. When Vic and I first met, I used to tell this story like it was about someone else, but then I just was like, wait, I don't care. It's about me. You know what I mean? I'd be like, I one time had a client that I was like, all right, not really. Okay, it was me. Where I used to have this whole hang up about my legs. Hated my legs. They were terrible. They never wore skirts. It was just a whole active loathing of my legs for whatever reason. And I was in therapy at the time, thank God, when I'd actually had a lot of therapy before Vic and I got together. And I remember the first time he actually saw my legs, like the full gamut of my legs. And he was like, oh man, like they're so hot, basically. And for like a second, I literally thought, could this guy actually be goofing on me? Like that? No, he's not like that. He couldn't be. Like, it was so unbelievable to me. And in that moment, it was like I pivoted away from convincing him that I sucked and that my legs were gross and that I was gross in some way. Like that because we do that and then the person will be like, no, that's not true. I'd done enough work on it where I was like, hey, what if I just started looking at my legs through the lens that Vic actually sees them through? Would I think they were hot and awesome and amazing the way they are right this very moment? Could I possibly accept, embrace, and maybe even celebrate what I used to think of as these terrible things? And the answer was yes. And I have to say that changed my life, in that I just started going, okay, what are the other things that you waste your time, your energy, and you lower your love vibe by focusing on? Why do I got to convince people that I suck at math or whatever the hell it is? Patricia Moreno says, a mutual friend of ours, and if you don't know her work, you guys should. She's great. She was the creator of Intensati, a particular kind of workout. Anyway, she always says, why are we fighting for our limitations? Why don't we fight for our strengths and our beauty and our uniqueness? Anyway, so I digress, long way around the barn to come back to self-celebration, which actually is day 9 of the More Love meditation experience. And then the last one is basically surrendering, which you and I talked about in the beginning of this, where there's something about surrendering to love. And it's not just what you were saying, like surrendering to the process, surrendering to the other person, perhaps not being their best self in that moment, rather than trying to control or react or clap back, basically is what you had said. It's also, how about surrendering and allowing? Like, where are you at in your life with allowing other people to help you, allowing love,
Yeah, Rumi says it's all about just removing the obstacles. Like, it's all there. It's all there. There's nothing to earn. There's nothing to even make. You don't have to improve yourself. Just remove every lie that you have in your psyche that you've ever been told, ever been manufactured by the media, by family, whatever, that love isn't what you're worthy of. It's all there. Yeah. Oh, believe that lie. That's out. Oh, look, more love just showed up. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, we could keep on going, but why
Yeah.
don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing before we have to go?
Well, in the spirit of love, heart-centered. So all of these practices, like the esoteric stuff and the rituals and the thought forms, and maybe we're going to talk about neural pathways. Eventually, at some point, I'm going to talk about me smoking cigarettes, walking through Manhattan, and you talking to me about neural pathways and gratitude. I'm just putting all my practices into formation, basically. And so it's devotional weekly practices. Every month has a theme. It's called Heart Centered. And I am interested in, we just rewrote our company vision and mission. And for a long time, for like many years, it's like to raise consciousness. And what I've really realized is that for me, it's all about the heart space and it's all about love. So it's about supporting and offering heart-centered values. And it's what everybody craves for. I think there's a set of values: joy, generosity, compassion, inclusiveness, and a couple others. And there's a rhythm that you need to, there's something about steadiness. Like you get up every day and you meditate. We all get up every day and we brush our teeth. Get up, check in with your heart space, have a devotional practice to support that. Real love, clarity.
I love it. So we'll put all that information in the show notes as well, you guys, for those of you ladies who would be interested in doing that. I love it, and I can't wait. Heart-centered, because I need a little bit of help with my devotional practice. Because yes, I meditate, but then I work out like a maniac. Like I feel like I need a little bit of something in between those two things, that committed to something else. Evolving the part of me that I don't work on that much, because it's what you do and it is less what I do. But I'm very interested in seeing how my internal experience and my external experience will change, because I know it will.
Yeah, just like that. Yeah.
That's right. Well, thank you. I love you. I hope you guys enjoyed our little real talk about real love, because that's what we're all about. All the information you need for all the things will be in the show notes. Thanks, Dee. I super love you and super appreciate you.
I super love you. Thanks, everybody.